Welcome to NASDAQ Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at NASDAQ. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, we have Denise Scholl. She's a performance coach with Rethink Group, and we're going to talk about the human trading conditions, certainly what many of our followers can relate to. Denise, it's great to have you with us, and part of trading is so psychological, and I don't think people realize it until they sit in that chair, they commit capital, and then it's game on. Let's learn more about the human trading condition. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so people think that it's facts and analysis and math and logic, but really it's all your confidence or conviction or lack thereof. In other words, it's how you feel about those facts. We're not taught to analyze that in any organized way, but people find themselves making a plan for a trade and then unable to execute on the plan and just being so frustrated as to why they can't do what they plan. It's really about how the brain reacts to markets, which is not how it reacts to any other thing. I mean, for one thing, because markets are so uncertain and so ambiguous. And your brain says, what should I do with all of this, even though you've tried to put it in some sort of logical framework.
Right, I mean, it's also a physical response too that traders can get. And so what are some of the common psychological mistakes that traders make?
Well, probably the most common one is getting into a trade based on the feeling of fear of missing out. Like they hear other people talking about it, or they thought they were going to get into it and it's running and now they didn't get into it and they're mad at themselves, and so they just act out of that fear. People think they're supposed to try to control their emotions so they don't make those, ill-advised decisions, let's put it that way. But really what they need to do is understand all of their feelings as information, and then they get to choose between which ones are about the market, like intuition or unconscious pattern recognition, and which ones are about something else, like I don't want to miss the trade because my buddy down the street is in the trade.
Right. Is it a matter of experience, or is there a sustainable trading philosophy, based on these psychological strategies that you can implement, whether you're a beginner or experienced? Does this happen with veteran traders as well?
It happens with veteran traders. In a way, I wouldn't have a job if it didn't happen with veteran traders.
Well, that's true.
So there is a mental approach or strategy you can use for what I like to call psychological capital or mental capital. Like if you understand how the human brain really does interact with markets and how it's compelled to make a decision, how your feelings are delivering you relevant information, how you need to learn to be able to separate those two, how ultimately it's really a game of predicting other people. Like, It doesn't matter, I have long only funds doing, enormous amounts of research, holding positions for 5 years, and, guys who are trading for 5 minutes. Everybody's trying to do the same thing. Predict what the other guy is going to pay in 5 minutes or 5 years. That's called theory of mind, but it's about predicting other people. When I first started trading, I noticed some of the greatest traders were talking about the market makers on the New York Stock Exchange, like, he's doing this, they're doing that. I'd be like, who's the he? Who's the they? Well, now I get it. And there's actually brain research that shows if you're using the parts of your brain associated with people prediction, you're actually going to predict the price better than if you're just using straight logic and math.
Right.
So anyone can decide that they're going to think about the markets as how other people will perceive them, and that they're going to think about their own feelings as a source of information in order to separate impulsive feelings, fear of missing out, from something that's actually pattern recognition.
Right, so it's like thinking like a market maker.
Say again?
So thinking like a market maker.
Yes, thinking like a market, exactly.
Right. All right, so we are all humans. What happens when you get frustrated, when negative emotions are taking over? And look, how many traders have you spoken to that they can't trade their ways out of a paper bag? They're having a bad week, bad month. Do they walk away? Do they, go back and think what they did psychologically? How do you manage those feelings?
Well, first of all, you decide that you are going to, that it's actually a thing. You take a lot of breaks, you get a lot of sleep. I'm always teaching people to answer the question, what am I feeling and why am I feeling it accurately? Mm-hmm. It sounds like a simple question, it is a simple question. It's not an easy question to answer. And the better you get at answering it, both what, which could be multiple things, frustrated that I didn't get the trade, disappointed over the last trade, happy that this other thing's working, whatever. You have multiple feelings at one time. And then why? And then you can figure out which feelings are actually about the trade and which ones are about the last trade, or, your teenager who just got in trouble or whatever.
I was going to say, it sounds like it could be applicable to other parts of your life as well, like being real, being honest. But you brought up a good point too about getting enough sleep. The physical part of it, remaining healthy or trying to be healthy, and sleep, that's got to be a big part of it too. You can't function without that.
Well, when I first started talking about this like 10 or 15 years ago, no one was really talking about it, but the research shows that when we're lacking rest or we're lacking sleep, we misperceive risk. So we literally don't see the risk. So like, why would any trader want to not see the risk? I mean, isn't that the thing at the end of the day? Like, figure out what your real risk is and, be able to tolerate the risk for the reward. Why would you put yourself in a situation where you're literally going to perceive the thing that's most important to you? So it sounds, sort of mundane, but it's really true. Like, the brain reacts to being well rested.
All right, great insight. Thanks so much, Denise, for
Thank
joining
you.
us at MarketSite. And thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malantrino, Global Markets Reporter at NASDAQ.